Welcome to the House of Azor podcast. I'm your host, William, and joining me will be Derek.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hello.
And on this episode, we'll be discussing the House on Haunted Hill, the 1959 Vincent Price version, not the 1999 Jeffrey Rush version where
Chris Kattan.
Chris Kattan was Ali Larter was in it too, I think.
Well, I always get confused too because there's also one that's
The Haunting.
The Haunting that has Owen Wilson in it, right?
And Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah, okay. Because those are pretty similar. And then you also have like 13 Ghosts, which is kind of similar because they all kind of feel like.
Well, so the that line I was looking up, was it called Newcastle? Like it was supposed to be a division, and they were going to produce William Castle remakes.
Yeah.
So they started with House on Haunted Hill, and then 13 Ghosts was another one.
Which I love.
And then apparently they just only did like 3, and then they said whatever. But yeah, I mean that's probably why.
But they all, I just remember like, because they all came around the same period, the remakes, and I'm sure the originals did too. But then they all kind of have a similar vibe because you had Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Late 90s vibe, post Scream.
I would say that House on Haunted Hill and 13 Ghosts were more similar than The Haunting, because The Haunting was the one that seemed to be going a little bit more serious and trying to be a little bit more, but it also had like really bad late 90s CG. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily hold up.
13 Ghosts has its moments where it's not bad.
I love the remake of House on the Hill just because it was like kind of campy and like a comedy at times.
And then it has Jeffrey Combs in it, so of course the Reanimator is in it, is like the ghost doctor that's doing all experiments. And it had Taye Diggs in it, and Famke Janssen, and...
I mean, I was in middle school when that came out. I was like, this is what I want. Like this fun, goofy horror film. You know what I mean? Like it's... I don't know. I was in on that for being a remake, expecting with all the bad horror films coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was so many of them that I just did not care about. That just played it straight, and it kind of just felt lifeless. Like as dumb as that is at points or whatever, at least there was like something going on.
Well, and two, it had the Marilyn Manson song at the beginning.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Just like everything, the roller coaster bit and everything.
Yeah,
like all that was just fun, stupid fun. Like that was like, it felt like just this campy, like, you know, drive-in movie almost.
Because I guess they tried to recreate the vibes of the original. Because like in the original, if I remember correctly from what I read, like there would be scenes where they have like a ghost on like a little like line that would go through the audience. See, that's cool.
They would have the skeleton.
Slight spoilers for House on Haunted Hill in 1959, but at one point a skeleton appears and walks around. And then in theaters, they would have a skeleton flying around on some contraption through the
it's cool because like
theater.
I don't think you can do that nowadays. I think somebody be an ass and like
no, they
down.
do. So here's the thing: they do special screenings. They've done like revival screenings in recent years where they do that.
But it's a certain audience.
That's a specific crowd at a higher end theater where it's a special event.
Yeah, but
if you showed that for the Friday night, It Chapter 2. You'd have some, douche knocking it off, and
if you were confident enough and people have signed release forms, you could just fly one of those like a little drone in a pulley system, fly it all around the audience. That would be fun.
Then somebody's being douche, just drive right
drag it across their face.
And two, just like before we get into discussing specifically House on Haunted Hill. So Derek, you had actually also watched The Last Man on Earth because because
I thought we were going to cover that. Yeah, and then I watched that. So
so like a few years ago, I'd watched a bunch because this was currently most of those movies are on Amazon Prime. So House on Haunted Hill, they have I think the black and white version, the colorized version, and one other version.
It's a black and white widescreen, black and white 4:3.
Okay.
Because I guess that's probably the correct aspect ratio. I accidentally watched the black and white. Which ones did you all watch?
I watched the black and white.
So I'd seen the black and white one years ago, so I watched the colorized version this time.
I accidentally watched the widescreen black and white, but I meant to watch the other one. But that film also is like a public domain.
Yes.
So that's why there's all those on there. So it's also on archive.org. Like there's tons of
domain films on that.
If it's public domain, that means you can just make it.
I think we could do a remake of it if we want.
Yeah, that's what's fun is like
maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have to look into it because they did the movie recently with.
It doesn't matter if it's public domain.
That's true. That's true. Since they made that remake there,
I think so.
Probably not.
I think depends. I think sometimes what happens is that Thor is a character that is mythology, that's open to anybody.
Alice in Wonderland.
But the difference is you cannot make a movie that references the elements of the Marvel Thor. Like, so you can't have
bet?
you can't have the same you can't have the same human characters in it, and you can't make the look of Thor be what it is from the movies that Marvel makes and take.
But also, too, just talking about remakes, apparently they're talking about another one, too, a couple years ago.
Another, yeah, I saw
William
that.
Castle's daughter was like, I have notes from a prequel because, you know, minor spoilers, you know, he said this was like his like fourth or fifth wife.
Yeah.
So like, you know, my dad had notes about a prequel, so she's like working on that apparently, but it's just weird because at that time, how many prequels came out ever?
Very few.
And, you know, very few sequels.
Yeah.
Like, so a prequel, like, what was this just like backstory he was writing, or did he actually have plans for a prequel? I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Well, yeah, because
Now it's like, oh yeah, of course they make a prequel once they kill off the characters and they want to go back. That's just like they do that with every series.
But it's just funny because it's not like a novel idea, but at the time that just wasn't something they did where they had an entire universe of movies or had
Yeah,
it was
they
usually
just make a whole new movie.
another movie. Whereas this one's like, oh, okay, well we actually had the story of how this was before.
But it could have just been backstory on, you know, like how they always do.
This is how the house was built. This is
too, when you
sandwich.
So you think back to a lot of these older movies, because we talked about doing Universal Monsters. We're still planning to do some of those at some point.
So
soon.
I think some of those are actually on archive.org as well.
Yeah,
And those are all, aren't those, what we were saying, public domain?
Yeah. I guess because some of them are on archive.org, but those aren't as widely distributed as like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And
well, because it's like something that drives me insane, and you see this all the time in short films, is somebody's watching, or short films or indie film, somebody's watching a TV and it's a horror film and it's Night of the Living Dead. And that just happens so much. It's like, look, no offense to Night of the Living Dead, I love the movie. Nobody's watching it in 2019 as an adult and getting scared and reacting to it viscerally.
Like they just throw their popcorn everywhere and like, ah! You know, they're acting like more.
It's pretty much just the fact that you can use it for free without worrying about recourse is why people use it. And it's like, look, I get it, I understand it, but you could go out in your back if you're shooting a
doing it next time.
You could go back and
mad.
It's like, oh man, I'm watching Night of the Living Dead.
No, but what's the Friday 13th where Corey Feldman's in it? Okay, the reason I'm bringing this up, there's like one of the dudes just watching some stupid black and white movie that's like not funny at all, and he's like, like dying laughing. But I want to do that with Night of the Living Dead, where they're like, because that might be the reaction of people currently, you know, if you go show them that movie, instead of like being terrified, it's like laughing at it.
Well, I think too, it's just, so you think back to like these older movies, because have any of you all seen The Haunting, the original one?
No.
So I'd seen that because I was like I said a few years ago there was a bunch of them that were on Hulu or some service that I watched like 8 years ago, and like the original Haunting I liked more than the Liam Neeson, Owen Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones remake.
I'm Catherine Zeta-Jones.
House on Haunted Hill, the original and this new one, there's similarities. But the new one goes in all these different directions. That was very late 90s, early 2000s horror. And I'm trying to think, like Last Man on Earth, so that's the same, that was based on the book I Am Legend. And then you had the new movie I Am Legend that was based on I Am Legend. But what's funny is the Vincent Price one was closer to the book than the Will Smith one. And then you had the movie Omega Man or whatever that came out in the 70s that was based on it. So you have like all these stories that have been made multiple times. And a lot of horror from like the 50s and 60s, and especially like the black and white era, doesn't hold up all that well. But some of it still is fun.
Well, it has charm to it. I mean, you have like Vincent Price who, and I say this, he definitely like, I don't want to say he's hammy, because he is the guy that created like a lot of that.
Yeah,
like he's usually like a very eccentric, over the top type character.
Eccentric,
And then but what's happened is like, me growing up, and especially people our age and maybe people younger, like he was involved in a lot of Scooby-Doo stuff. He was in Thriller.
I knew who Vincent Price was.
So like
little,
that shtick that he did. It's really weird getting to watch it when it's like not a shtick. Is that weird to say?
Yes.
Like because you go back and you watch it, and it's like, okay, I know him from as a kid where he did like Scooby-Doo stuff, he did this and that, and a bunch of other stuff where he's just kind of like a pop culture thing.
Yes.
But you're kind of getting to go watch the movies where that really wasn't that yet. You know, because you're talking 20 years later is when it really...
Yeah, the thing I love watching about like watching old horror films is just because like now there's a difference between watching films that were made in the 80s versus now because everything is built on what came in the past. So back then, I think anything there's so many things you can just forgive because it's like at this time, what year was this made? 52?
Let me pull it up real quick.
No, it's 50. I don't know. 2 or 3.
No, that was a different movie. House on Haunted Hill. We're so researched here.
House OK Hill.
I hate the IMDb app. It was 1959.
1959, okay.
And this was also supposedly part of like what inspired Hitchcock to make Psycho as like a cheap, low-budget black and white horror film.
Yeah. So I mean, like they've been making movies for like 50 years at that point. You know what I mean? Like it's just so interesting because like they were still figuring things out with the genre, and I mean, we can kind of get into the movie, but I love that this film. So there are some movies that they try to take themselves so seriously, and especially, not to disparage it, but I feel like the Conjuring movies and all those, because they're like, oh, we want to make this feel real, feel like get you into it as much as possible to make it as scary as possible and stuff. And this tries to be as spooky and as scary as possible, I think, but it takes a different route where it addresses the audience. Like, you know what I mean? It's talking directly to the audience. Like, it's more concerned with like being spooky and like a funhouse thing than it is about like you being impressed by the world of the story.
This feels more like a haunted house movie. As it feels more, like you said, it tries to interact with the audience, so it feels like it's like
especially with the skeleton,
like something like you go to see like, I guess, like a fair or a carnival, or you go to a haunted house. Like that's kind of the vibe of this movie.
Well, people accused the movie at the time of being gimmicky because they had the skeleton flying over, but too, like when I was watching this movie, the beginning of it, I did think, okay, this movie has a sense of style because it's opening up with like the one guy talking about the ghost in like a single shot where he's like lit and surrounded by darkness. And then you had Vincent Price doing like a voiceover and explaining who everybody is that's coming there. So they had these elements to it that were interesting and gave it a sense of style and kind of grounded you in.
And it gave you perspective, like, okay, this is the tone of this. Like, we're fine. We're just going to talk about what's happening, and here's what happens.
But then you look at the original, or not the original, but the remake, where it starts out with like the roller coaster and all this stuff. So you have like these two different approaches to it. And two, apparently, so they shot the exterior of some house in California, and then the interiors are all a soundstage.
It's Frank Lloyd Wright. It was a Frank Lloyd Wright house from like the 1926.
Is like he offers $10,000 to a group of people to stay the night at the house. So I know we're kind of jumping through, but I just wanted to say so I forgot. So I went and did an inflation calculator. So nowadays, it's $10,000 then. It'd be $88,000 now. So it is
change.
But that is a lot of money. I mean, it's like a light. Yeah. But it's just funny because like back then, that money went way further. I feel like $10,000 then still goes way further than $88,000.
It was $1 million in the remake.
Yeah. It was way more.
So a bit of it inflated, but it's also just raising the stakes just to make it. But so you have the basic premise is that Vincent Price's character invites a number of people. Was it 5 people to stay the night at this haunted house, and if everybody stays the night, they get $10,000 the next day.
And it's very a Clue type of cast where everybody is from different backgrounds. They don't know each other.
Yeah, because Vincent Price is playing Frederick Lauren, then Carol Omart is playing Annabelle Lauren, Richard Long is playing Lance Schroeder, Alan Marshall's playing Dr. David Trent. Then there's Carolyn Craig, who's Nora Manning, who just screams the entire movie, very much in that kind of classic. Elisha Cook Jr. is Watson Pritchard. I'm trying to remember who all these people are.
I like how there's
Skeleton is himself.
Yeah, the skeleton.
I noticed that in the credits. Like that's such a.
That's funny.
That tells you what the movie is.
Julian Mitchum was Ruth Bridger.
But that's kind of like funny because that's, like you said, this is a movie that. Like you said, it's still. So I wonder. It tries to be serious, but it does play with the audience.
I wonder if, with the Insidious, if the scary woman was inspired by this movie.
The way she floats.
The way she floats and has like the look on her face.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if there was any inspiration on that. I mean, it's also the trap of so many things are just, oh, here's an idea, but someone else has done it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff where people. Because somebody had messaged me about one of our short films, was trying to say like, oh, I saw the trailer for. So there's some trailer for. I don't know if it was before It when I saw it, about somebody that gets an app that tells them they're going to die or something, and then they die, and somebody's like, oh, that was like kind of like your short film shared. I'm like, well, not really. I mean, It was just using technology for horror but there's elements that are similar. So it's one of those things where 1,000 people have all these different ideas. But I would be interested to know like if Insidious pulled directly from House on Haunted Hill as an inspiration. Because
I mean, it seems like James Wan is a fan of those types of films.
Well, and
you know
he's
what
a fan of horror. I mean,
honestly, watching this, I was thinking I would like to see James Wan remake this film in this tone almost.
Well,
because I think he would make a very effective one.
Well, yeah,
having it be a haunted house movie.
Yes.
Yeah, because we don't because there was like the resurgence of those in the like late 90s, early 2000s, and we don't. You get those, but you don't really get them like this because this movie
style is what's different.
Like I didn't feel like this was a mean-spirited movie watching it. I just felt like a lot of times it was having fun. I think the remakes maybe sometimes went kind of like it had a weird vibe because they might be mean-spirited in some regards and they weren't in others. But I think making a fun house type movie like this that is more meta and kind of speaks to the audience and plays with them a little bit, I think would be fun. Because you don't get a whole lot of horror movies like that.
Well, there's one point where Vincent Price is talking to his wife, and he's almost looking directly at camera just because of the way she's angled.
Yeah.
And two, there's a lot of classical filmmaking to this. You have a lot of stationary tripod shots, then you have like dolly shots and stuff.
Now, we need to also talk about a movie this heavily influences Scary Movie 2, because we talked about that.
Oh, well, yeah, because what's funny is, so the main thing too I remember about those 90s remakes, those late 90s, 2000s remakes, was Scary Movie 2 pulling those elements from 13 Ghosts and...
this...
Well, I mean, because House on Haunted Hill would come out, but it was very similar in that...
Because they paid people to come by and stay the night, and you had Tim Curry as the Vincent Price type guy.
Yeah.
You know, and then he was using... Yeah, it was just... That was like such a perfect culmination of like everything at the time. So it is very memorable.
So a lot of my memories of those remakes are through the parodies and Scary Movie 2.
Because like they did it so good because you had like the... kind of the 13 Ghosts where they have the glasses, they can see stuff. And I mean, it's just fun.
So, and two, so
then
like,
you got Tim Curry in it, and you know, he was...
So like I said, we laid out the basic premise. You have Vincent Price's character, Frederick, invites all these people to stay at this haunted house overnight. If they stay, they get $10,000. They have until midnight to decide whether or not to stay. If they want to leave, they have to leave before midnight, and then they'll be locked in, you can't get out. And then everybody's got a friggin' gun. He has a pistol for everybody. It's like, this movie would play a little bit differently in 2019.
Nope, you still do it.
Because they'll be like
shooting each other.
And then two, it's like if somebody doesn't make it or whatever, then the other people get their share. It's like, so in today's world, I'd be like, the ghosts are okay. The guns I don't want here because somebody will just shoot and kill me.
They just have a shootout to begin the movie.
It's just the purge inside of a haunted house, you know?
And so your basic setup, you know, I'm assuming for the time was fairly high concept. It wasn't just, oh, there's a ghost. Because and what's funny is another movie I remember from this era was a Don Knotts movie, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken.
Yeah, my mom's favorite films.
And I remember really enjoying that as a kid. But it feels like that, like a lot of these movies have similar elements of a haunted house where there's really stuff going on that's orchestrated by a person. Because I think back then, like it is just funny, like what scares people. And you go over the years in terms of what people use as their ghost or their scare. So in this one, you have like a creepy old lady that somehow floats through, but is actually just one of the carettakers.
But that's just her apparently.
Yeah.
There's no gag. It's
but that's what's kind of because again though, like you know,
it'd be really funny if she just shows up and she's like dab bitch, and then does the dab and just floats away.
Movie.
But like you know, this is another one of those things where it's like having Scooby-Doo exist, which pulled so much from a lot of this. That gag now, it doesn't seem as fresh because, like, I feel like that's something that happened in Scooby-Doo or a bunch of those Hanna-Barbera type cartoons.
The eyes glowing.
Yeah, but then it's fresh and funny at the time, and maybe not funny, just kind of cool. That's just her.
Well,
but then you go in and see Scooby-Doo, and it's like, well, they did the same.
Something
I'm sure
else,
they did
something else that was funny too is at one point the Nora character I'm forgetting his names. Lance was looking for Nora and he opened up like the closet or something. There's just a head hanging. So he just picks up and walks around like, what's this about?
Yeah.
Very matter of fact, walking around.
That also reminds me though of Tropic Thunder when Ben Stiller grabs the head and he's like, oh, and making him do all the noises.
He thinks it's fake.
Yeah, thinks it's fake. So it just, I wonder if maybe even that pulled from that, which is why it's
because the character, I'm forgetting everybody's names. The character, Watson Pritchard is Elisha Cook. The guy that was like the opening narrator.
Yes.
He was talking about
whose was it?
his brother passed away in the house. And
So he opened the film basically telling the story of
saying that there were 7 ghosts in the house to begin with, which they never really go through and touch on and say, here's the 7 ghosts and here's what they are and why. Because I feel like
really why he decided to go there.
They just claimed in the voiceover. It's like, oh, he claimed it was for money.
Yeah, like they never. It very much just throws away a lot of some of the characters and their motivations or anything.
Well, and two,
just because it's like, okay, this is all just a setup to make this film spooky and scary. Yeah. You get to the revelation and then it's over with.
Well, you get to the actual story bits and you're like, well, some of this doesn't necessarily hang together all that well, but also, you're looking at horror films in the 1950s, probably didn't have the same level of structural rigidity and screenwriting.
Let's be fair, though. Plenty of films now don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Like, this was noted as a B movie at the time. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
What's funny is there's plenty of movies now when you watch horror films, big budget, low budget, American Horror Story 1984, indie film. You get to a certain point where you're like, a logical person wouldn't be doing this. This requires someone making a very dumb decision, passing up the logical thing to do.
But is the end result worth it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what you got to ask yourself when you're watching the film. Is it like, okay, are you fine with like conceding that like it doesn't? I don't care that much. For this film, the end result, like even any of the little nuts and bolts, I'm fine because the whole point of it wasn't. You know what I mean? It's not trying to be a thriller.
It didn't bother me because just watching this. It's like, because Julie, she was gone when I was watching it, and she's like, I'd like to watch it. I was like, well, I can watch it again because...
Were you watching, throwing popcorn all around the house and things, having a big bag, like,
oh, there's a skeleton walking
the popcorn, she comes home, there's popcorn all over the living room, like, I got scared.
Well, because like I said, so the movie was, I think it was all shot on a soundstage, and they just used like an exterior of a creepy building that doesn't match the interior at all.
That's what's funny, because it's like a Frank Lloyd Wright, so it's so awesome that, is this the only haunted house movie I think I've ever seen that has a mansion that looks like a modern, you know what I mean, like futurist, like Frank Lloyd Wright film. But even like on some of the box art, they redesigned it to like an old, like scary mansion, like it's the Psycho or the Addams Family house or something.
Because the outside of it
threw me when I started watching the film. I was like, wait, is this this haunted house?
It's like a modern type exterior that you would like. That can be creepy too, but the interior would be more modern design and more stark, tall ceilings, bare walls, like.
It's funny, like how stuff like this even influenced stuff like Mario, because you go back and you play like some of the Mario video games, and you have these like haunted houses you have to go into that are very much in the vein of this.
Yeah,
and I just love like how much stuff like this has influenced so much stuff, because you can find influences that, like I said, there's even a Mario, which is kind of a funny thing to think about. That's like,
and two, if you go back and think about like in the modern era, you don't get movies like this anymore. The closest thing is the Haunting of Hill House Netflix series, where it is a big house / mansion which they'd explore and have ghosts and have all these things going on. In most cases today, the focus is not on the location but on the supernatural entity, like the Conjuring films aren't really tied to a specific house as much. I mean, it may occur in a house, but it's about the ghost or the spirit. And the location itself isn't as much of a character. And like I said, you can tell very clearly that this is a soundstage. Like, all these rooms it wasn't a full room. It was just like, chopped up parts. But that just also makes me think, like, how fun would it be to shoot that way? Because we're dealing with shooting in, the small amount of stuff we do or the indie films I see, people are shooting in a real house, which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because, you can't light this room properly because you got the wall there. And then if you put too many lights in there, it's too hot and too bright and too close, as opposed to having like a big soundstage set where it'd probably be really fun. But then that's also why they never shoot in certain directions. But like, I just watching this, I enjoyed like the classical filmmaking, just, the camera moved and it followed people and stuff, but it was also stationary. It wasn't doing stuff just to do it. There wasn't the camera doing a 360 rotation down the hallway and then all this junk. It was just, it usually moved when it needed to and was, content to stay put in scenes. And then there was some scenes in the hallways where multiple characters would talk and have conversations, and then the other characters behind them would then talk and have a conversation, move around. So there's a lot of fun stuff like that where it's just like you don't see that as much anymore. I mean, you see it in some stuff because it's necessitated by budget because you can't move the camera around as much, and the stuff doesn't. Back then the stuff didn't exist.
So my pitch is to remake this movie, but have Wes Anderson direct and Jeff Goldblum play Vincent Price's character.
I mean, I would legit watch that.
Would you watch that? And it have his normal cast of people. And it would probably be really, and it would probably fit.
Jeff Goldblum's like, my wife.
He's guilty.
He just walks. He just walks.
He would walk it, and then he walked back out of the room. He's like, oh, that guy.
He walks in.
Could be
like,
it'd be fun.
yeah,
it would work.
He's like, my wife. I don't like her. She needs to die. And then he just walks out.
Yeah, it would work. It'd be fun, I think James Wan could be fun. And if you really want to go off kilter, and you have just a movie that you just what the hell did I watch? You could probably give it to Rob Zombie or the guy that directed Green Inferno.
Ron. Well, he made a house with a clock in the walls. I'm guessing that's somewhat similar. I haven't seen that, but apparently it's pretty good. But I'm saying a haunted house type film.
Or you could. But I think the thing that if you remade this movie and you go back toward the 50s fun element of it and maybe not so horrific and you try to have fun with people, I think it could be a way more enjoyable thing.
I mean, but so many audiences, if anything breaks that wall of oh, this isn't the comedy sometimes breaks horror films. And they're like, what? They can't wrap their mind around it. But of that era, so many films, they let the audience know, hey, we're coming in to have a good time. Alfred Hitchcock would do his trailers where he would just talk to the audience about what the movie was.
That's why I think
my new film Psycho.
Yes, I would love to be able to make a film like this and say, hey, we're just coming to have a good time.
Yeah.
Just come here and have fun. You know what I mean?
And you don't get that because a lot of
it has to be super serious.
Yeah, it has to be super serious, and you can still derive horror and make tense moments. Maybe more so in a movie like that because you like the cast. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people forget is that the reason why horror works is either one, it's the situation, or two, it's who it's happening to.
Watching this.
And you have a good connection with people that makes you more invested in what's going on.
Watching this, I thought the closest thing to nailing this tone and this whole thing, and which really is one of the most successful at, I think, is Drag Me to Hell. Yeah. Drag Me to Hell is the modern version of this as far as tone and having fun.
Because it's very hokey in parts. Because she squeezes the face of the gypsy and her eye pops out or something.
I just imagine if
it's PG-13, which worked for it.
Yeah.
It's just,
but it worked very well, and it still had tense moments that you cared about. But then you have very just some Three Stooge-esque.
Yeah, and you knew you were there to have fun.
Yeah.
She talks to the psychic. It's all these classical things.
If you had Sam Raimi make a movie like this today, if you had Sammy do if you had Sammy,
old Sam
Raimi, as I call him, Sammy. If you had him direct a House on Haunted Hill redo, you didn't have to keep the name because that concept is so you could rename it to whatever. You don't need to keep that name, but it'd be really fun. But thinking back, the last time I can remember a movie that was in a setting like that where the intention was fun, not scares, or because Haunting of Hill House had some levity and it was mostly a drama with horror elements and ghosts and stuff. But Scary Movie 2 is the last one I can think of that was intended to be fun in a haunted house setting.
Yeah.
In terms
the remake was intended.
Well, that
to be
was before.
But I'm saying it was the same era.
Yeah, but the thing
very close, right?
But Scary Movie 2
versus 2000.
Scary Movie 2 definitely left a much bigger impact on me than because I don't.
But their whole point was just to be a parody, not to be a fun version of
But I would like to see people, like you said, take this and give it to a director that would be interesting, and then let them just kind of have fun with it. Because there's a lot of people you could put in certain roles. I think Jeff Goldblum as Vincent Price character would be, or just anybody.
It's the same thing, just like Rian Johnson's Knives Out movie. You know what I mean? He got this awesome cast and made a murder mystery film.
Yeah.
And it's just that, but with a haunted house.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at this movie, so you have the plot elements. We're going to be doing full spoilers for all this.
Yeah, I mean, there's not.
Go watch it. You can watch it anywhere.
But watching the movie, it starts out with everybody who's invited there. So the husband was having a party for his wife because she wanted to have a party at a haunted house, and she wanted it to be her friends or their, or at some point she's like, we don't have any friends. You saw to that, implying he's really jealous. So he instead just invites random people, like people from his companies or work or people he knows needs money. And he invites them there, and his wife's not into it, and they're arguing back and forth, and he implies she tried to poison him and all this stuff.
Which that's all interesting. Like you don't like when you find out the revelation. Like what like I kind of get what was going on, but it's just a roundabout way of getting to one point. But his conversation, like their relationship, is interesting the whole time you're watching it because you're finding out like, oh, this is like combative a little bit, but it's just weird tension between them.
That made little sense. Like I said, you have the thing where he supposedly invited 5 strangers to this party instead of her friends and kind of gave her what she wanted, but didn't do it the way she wanted, just to spite her. But then one of the guys is a psychiatrist, so he said he wanted to have all the niches filled. He wanted a psychiatrist, he wanted this, he wanted that. So he invited the psychiatrist, who's actually the person that his wife was having an affair with, and they had planned to set things up to get him killed. And it's like, okay, but so I guess he knew that they were cheating and then invited him randomly. In which case, like, why didn't that ring more bells? I mean, like, it didn't really dive into it too much, but that was the thing where, like, the plot-wise, it didn't make a ton of sense, but I forgive it because it's a haunted house movie. I mean, and that wasn't its point. But, you know, so you have the element where his wife looks like she hung herself, but there was nothing for her to have been hung from. Like, she couldn't have done it herself because there's a rope tied to the banister, and there's nothing that she could have stood on to put the rope on.
And the way that was shot, it gave you clues too that the psychiatrist may have been in on it because I guess was it the astronaut, or was one guy astronaut, right? Or was he something else?
Oh, Lance, like the handsome dude.
Yeah. What was he?
I don't remember.
Well, anyway, because you know you were seeing everything from his perspective specifically at that point. So you don't see her neck, how it's hung up there, but then the psychiatrist comes out and gets her down, and you never see the reverse on that. You don't see any of that. Yeah. So at that point, I was thinking, okay, it's something with the psychiatrist because he was the only one that actually saw her hanging in neck. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you knew that he saw it, quote unquote, but he actually didn't see the full story. So they kind of, like, I think it's smart the way it kind of
and then you find
starts
out
setting things up in your mind there.
That was a fake out where she had a harness on. And I guess the psychiatrist has declared her dead even though she was breathing. They just had that on to restrict her. You couldn't see very well. So they were in on it, and their goal was to cause a bunch of stuff that scared the Nora character so that when they would have her be in the basement, they could send Vincent Price down and she would shoot him. So kind of convoluted and really requires a lot of things to happen. But it doesn't really explain. So the wife character, like after everybody thought she was dead, so she appears outside Nora's window and the rope goes in the room and wraps around her leg. It's like, well, how'd they do that?
I don't know how they did that, but I assume that the harness was also from hanging from that. Like when they said harness, I said, oh, she was wearing a harness outside and maybe like getting roped in, you know.
They have a rope that has a wire in it they can control.
I don't know about the rope, but...
I mean, in real life, they just shot it in reverse or stop motion or something.
Yes, I know how they shot it, but it's... But
in the movie, it's like...
I know it's not a real rope, William.
No. But these are where they didn't train the rope.
Oh my God, how did they get a rope?
How did they do... What?
The rope was haunted. Look, here's the thing. It was haunted. But no, it's just like one of those things where, once again, that part when you take the logic out, it was intended to be scary. But then when you think about it, you're like,
it's just a movie. It's just a movie.
There was an entire group of guys who did this. You know, yeah.
They had a camera.
Like a whole documentary on the stunt team that had the rope. Like they made that Hitchcock documentary on the knife scene in the shower.
So the thing,
and it's a cast photo that looks like at the end of The Shining where like 100 people for that rope.
So the thing I'm wondering is how is there the footage that we can watch of this scary event that happened?
Then you go to the Warrens Museum and the rope just don't open that door. The rope will come out.
It's knocking on the glass.
Oh, the rope.
No, it's wiggling. It's wiggling in the like.
And that's right after Hitchcock made the movie The Rope.
So now we have nightmares about a rope coming.
Where's the rope wrangler?
But yeah, I mean, so it's just one of those things where when you think about it, some of the story points don't make a ton of sense like that. But overall, I forgive it because, like you said, modern movies do that too.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like they get way less of a pass because they've had over 50 years to kind of work out.
I didn't come to this to have like these mental gymnastics of being like this major twist film or shocking ending like Seven, like a Fincher film or something. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, I just want to see the Vincent Price haunted house spooky film, and that's what this does, like constantly. You know, like I want to see
I want it to be David Fincher accurate. I want very specific plot points.
You want to leave thinking.
Cinema Sins on the haunting on, or
the House on Haunted, or how no, because I think at some point reading like the IMDb, at some point people were going to call it the House on Haunted Hill, but then it was actually just House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
Because you add the extra word in there, like people like don't need that. So then you have once you have that plot revealed that the psychiatrist and his wife and Vincent Price's wife are plotting to have him scare the girl that they've been trying to scare witless. And it's one of those things too where she is very much the character that runs around screaming about everything, Nora. She gets all the stuff that's scary happens to her and she's hysterical. I think if you were to remake that movie today, you might make that character be handled a little bit differently if you wanted to stick to the original characters. But you have...
But see, that also, the way her character is kind of reminds me of Eternal Darkness, because in that you had the scare meter, whatever it was.
The less sane your character became.
To me, I always kind of... The first thing I remember that is like, that's kind of how that feels, because like for her, she starts off at a base as normal, and then throughout the film, they do more and more stuff to her, so it's like, it's stuff that might not be scary to everybody else because she's so frantic. I think that was kind of
situation. She's already on edge and everything. Yeah.
I think that was kind of like a fun concept, you know. But yeah, I think
you got to have somebody being scared out of their mind, though, William. Like that's what people want in the scary, in a scary movie.
Yeah.
They want characters being really scared.
Yeah.
Like that's what gets the audience. If nobody's scared, then they're just
that's
like,
it too. So like
you can't have Indiana Jones person just shooting all the ghosts.
Yeah.
You know, like
because it is. So it's currently we're recording this on September 29th. So it'll be coming out October 1st, right? On Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we had just shot a short film over the weekend, and I consciously was like, okay, people want this. Let's see what happens if we put in what everybody wants out of the stuff we make and see what happens. And a lot of horror movies just do that. They say...
Spoiler, somebody eats a bowl of Jell-O, so it's the entire thing.
I want people to be scared when I'm watching a horror film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's why you're there. You're trying to see these characters get scared out of their
But the
minds.
thing is,
because if they're not scared, then you're like, what do I need to be scared
because
for?
in
They're
real
in
life-
a movie.
Because in real life, a lot of times somebody walks in, they get scared by something, they're quiet.
Yeah.
And in movies, it's always people are screaming their heads off,
Yeah.
and then if you make something that's more naturalistic to how it would occur, everyone's like, why aren't they screaming?
It's just
I want to hear
got to
screaming.
be bigger.
I need to hear
Yeah.
screaming. There's a rope in the room. There's a rope.
I heard somebody talk about when they're doing films, they were, it could, I don't know if it was, what's the director of Lights Out? David F. Sandberg?
David F. Sandberg, yeah.
I don't know if it was him or what. I was watching something recently, and I think it was somebody else, but they said basically when they're on set, they're always worried like, oh, is that too much? Are the characters acting like too big? And like they get to the edit, they're never like, oh, I wish we had one where they weren't as dramatic. You know what I mean? Like they always want, when they get to the edit, they always go for the one that's like the biggest, most dramatic. Because if you're not, you're just kind of a flat film. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at. I'm like, dude, just like go off the wall. You know what I mean? Like make people bonkers.
Well, because like
you want the drama. You want people screaming and shaking each other, and
so you have,
maybe not the Rob Zombie when they're having breakfast in the morning.
Yeah,
but maybe when the situation is right.
But you think of like
chicken abortions.
You think of like Airplane when the person's scared of the airplane, so there's a line of people like smacking her and she's screaming. Like that's what you want.
People come to movies to watch drama. They want to see people react strongly to things. So,
because like in real life, if you go in your house and you hear something, you're most likely one checking out or you're dipping.
Yeah.
So in a movie, if like they go to Camp Crystal Lake and they hear Jason murdering somebody, like, all right, you just get in the car and drive off. Then that's the
You've been watching a lot of ghost hunter shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you're watching any of those ghost shows, is it more fun to watch a group of people that are walking like, oh, what was that? Or the people that are losing their minds when they hear a burp.
Well, all I want to say is I watched one episode, and what's the guy, Zach Baggins? They were at the Goatman Bridge, and then he gets possessed. He's literally using his own two hands, choking. So like, Zach, quit choking yourself. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna die. And they're trying to like break his hands off. And then one of the other guys in the background gets thrown 20 feet, but the camera footage gets lost. And it's like, that's what you want to watch.
Exactly.
I watched the Demon House movie they had made. It was on Netflix, and at one point, like one of the guys on the crew got really angry and quit or something, and he was possessed. But that's also so like
quit choking.
That's why I like BuzzFeed Unsolved though, because they pair up some guy who could give he doesn't care about any of her belief, and then some guy who does. So they had him go like to the Warrens museum, and he goes with the Annabelle doll. And he's like, "I don't respect you, Annabelle." And he's like, because people were like, "Oh, somebody tapped on the glass when they left their car wrecked and they died, or motorcycle wrecked and they died."
And there's no evidence.
And then he just goes in. So I think it's fun to see, like, if you put somebody in there, like if I went with Zach Baggins on a ghost hunt, or any of those guys who are really into it, and they're all sitting there losing their minds and choking themselves and jumping all around, and I'm just like, "Hey, ghost, just take me over. If you want to prove everything, just control me. I'm sitting right here."
There was something else too. I shared it on my Instagram, and it was one of the ghost episodes, and Zach Baggins is talking to this woman at Goatman's Bridge, and she's like, "Yeah, I just want to start whacking everybody off." And it's like, maybe you could have used. She was about slapping them, but it's like, maybe you could have used.
What's funny too is thinking about those shows, like back in the day. I remember watching like the overly dramatic Discovery Channel or History Channel or whatever, where they were going. The main one I remember is they're going to look for the Jersey Devil, and they were looking in the woods or that whatever area in Jersey where they're supposed to be from, and the girl, like, they heard a sound, and the girl goes down the road, and then she comes back and she's like blank face, and she's like, "I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it." And then it's like they're all speculating about what happened, and she's just like, "I just can't talk about it." And it's like, that's just acting. That's their you didn't see a
But
Jersey
you remember
Devil.
that scene.
Yeah.
No,
you
but like,
remember
I love
that.
it. Here's the thing. So that's why a lot of that stuff to me is cheesy and corny, but I love watching.
Yeah,
it.
I think it's
It's fun. But like when
you brought the most dramatic scene of him choking himself.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
that was so
what
funny.
do we think about like Scary Movie 2? Her getting banged against the ceiling. You know what I mean? Like the wildest stuff. Like that's what you're gonna remember.
But like I always remember
when,
that
when you're wanting an experience like that of like a haunted house thing, maybe not when you're wanting like a serious drama, you know.
But you watch the Ghost Hunters episode, he's choking himself, and there's like a camera operator in the back just staring blankly, and like all this stuff's going down, and it's like, this doesn't happen. You know,
And if I was there, I would just be like doing scissor kicks in the air. It's like, Panama.
yeah, it's just like he's like, I'm gonna do it all. And
It's like,
oh my god,
it's like, I've been possessed by the ghost of David Lee Roth. It's like, he's alive. What? What?
Yeah,
it's a
and-
demon pretending to be him.
But I guess what we're saying is sometimes when you go to a 10, that's much more intense and get you involved because like if you go watch a movie and like you said, everybody reacts what you think they would really react like, and there's no way it's hysterical, and there's none of this. Then when you go to haunted house, is it like you go to
People are freaking out at
But
haunted house.
sometimes it's more fun to watch people get scared than it is to be scared yourself.
Well, I think too, part of it is with the haunted house, like you know the experience you're going for.
And that's what this movie is.
But yeah, so like you go in, you expect for yourself and everybody to be screaming their heads off. Because here's the thing, like I'm not trying to act like I'm a badass, but just like I don't get scared by most stuff. Like if I hear a noise, it's mostly like, is it a person or is it like an animal that's vicious? Those are the two things that I'm worried about.
Or is it a rope?
But when you go to a haunted house, like anybody's gonna react when stuff jumps out at you. It's just part of the experience, and it's fun. Like these movies, like I said, I don't know that this movie's scaring anybody today.
No. But it's
Maybe a really
fun.
small child. Maybe a really small child.
I actually thought about watching this with my daughter. Like before I had watched it, I thought, we might turn this on. You know what I mean? This is one
because there's no profanity, there's no nudity, there's no.
But it's a little
overt
it's a little boring in the middle
for a kid.
For a kid, for a 2-year-old.
I mean, I think for most people, again, this just speaks to the era, and it gets a little boring.
Yeah, just in that middle part there.
Yeah.
And then it's 1 hour and 14-minute runtime.
Yes.
Yeah.
which helps it too, because then it starts picking up like the last
this movie
20 minutes that's nearing the end of the film, and then like it gets boring for I'm saying it like it kind of starts to like spin its wheels, like maybe like 45 minutes in where you're like, okay, I'm kind
when you
of
get drugged into
this before.
when you get drugged into the plot machinations.
Yeah.
Did anybody watch David Harbour in Frankenstein's Monsters? It's Netflix. It's like 30 minutes.
No, but
it's like supposed to be his dad, who's a real serious Shakespearean actor. I would like to see like this movie kind of shot with like, because he plays kind of like a Vincent Price type, like over the top dramatic actor, and it's fun. And it's like it's all looks like it's set in a soundstage.
Yeah.
And I think doing this again, maybe in that kind of a vibe, would be fun. You can make it actually, scary and stuff too. But I think this having that little bit of levity in there would be enjoyable. And I think you could have a lot of fun with this movie. And it'd be so vastly different from what we're getting now.
Yeah.
Because like The Conjuring and Insidious, but especially The Conjuring, like the thing with those movies is when you go back and you do the actual research on it, what they're covering. It's like, it's a kid jumping in the air, and they, and it's the Warrens who are notoriously
exaggerators.
Yeah,
possibly.
So it's like,
man.
That's more than one.
So depending on how you believe, they're earnest people that actually are being honest and were involved in these things. And that's one read. And then other people believe that they exaggerated and were con people that just took advantage of people's hysteria to make money.
Well, you definitely look at the Amityville horror.
Well, because as much went on as the Amityville house that all those movies are based on, for in the decades since then, for no one to have had any problems whatsoever, that doesn't necessarily read. It's like, if this house was so haunted and so demonic and so troubled and such a magnet for that activity.
Everything is once people start paying attention to it. You know what I mean? Like, that much attention gets on it, then
Yeah, I think they've had more trouble with people visiting the house than the actual ghosts, so they had to change the address and change.
Well, see, the problem now is those ghosts. They're from a different era. They're a little bit non-PC, so you can't.
Yeah,
I'm
they
joking.
don't like certain audience members in there.
But when so you have like
the ghost of our era, like they're taking our jobs. Haunting houses built in 2010.
Yeah, there's like these.
Oh no! Here come the mega ghost.
The ghost of some like random white dudes complaining about it. But then the Native American ghosts are like, look at this guy.
Yeah.
But the part, so Vincent Price goes in the basement and he gets shot. And then the psychiatrist.
Or does he?
But then the psychiatrist is going to drop his body in the acid. But then it cuts to black and you hear someone fall in the acid, but you don't see
what happens then.
So then, later on when his ex-wife goes in the basement, then a skeleton comes.
And they've already set that up. They've done three. It's like the rule of threes. You know what I mean? Like you set something up, you reinforce it, and then you have a twist or a payoff. So they said the one, was it the lady that got thrown in there originally, or was it? It was the wife that got thrown in there, I think, right?
Yeah, or somebody got thrown in.
Or the husband did or something.
Yeah.
But then the skeleton came out, they said, on the original murders. Then they went down there to show the acid. Oh, it's still acid. He put a rat in there. The bones came up. Then at the end of the movie, she walks down there and then the bones come up.
And then the skeleton comes out and it walks around.
Yeah.
And she's freaking out. And then she backs up to the acid and then it just kind of goes up.
His shoulder just pushes her.
It's like, and then she falls in and dissolves. And then Vincent Price.
Pretty horrific deaths, I think.
Yeah.
Like, that's worse than some stuff nowadays. Not that they show it in graphic manner.
No, but still, you think about it.
Yeah.
So it also reminds me of Mortal Kombat 2, the acid pit level.
Yeah. So then they fall. So she falls in the acid and dissolves. And then you see Vincent Price has this like this control kit for this skeleton, which looked pretty good. I mean, you couldn't really see the strings and stuff.
John Cusack and being John Malkovich, he was out like a puppeteer.
So you have then like the remaining people,
and he throws it. He throws the skeleton back in the acid, knowing it's a fake skeleton. I'm guessing,
but it survived before.
Maybe it's real, but yeah. So it's still going to be there. So when they investigate the house, there's going to be an extra skeleton in there. And is it a fake skeleton? You know what I mean? Like, they're going to notice something's up at that point.
So after that happens, then the remaining survivors all come downstairs. And so it's just like the psychiatrist and his ex-wife that died. And he's like, well, they had a plot to kill me and it was self-defense. So we'll let the police decide. So he just basically set the entire thing up to be able to he basically set up a stand your ground situation.
Yeah.
So that he could take care of them and not have to give his wife
but still
his fortune.
Do the stand your ground. He still had this elaborate contraption.
Yeah. He should have been like at
this point
he does the Star Wars song of
nobody was down there. He literally could have just grabbed her and threw her in the acid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She fell.
But he wanted to do the theatrics of it. He wanted her to feel sad.
What's more entertaining, the theatrics of it, Yeah.
So
I really wish he had just done the Star Wars Cantina song and just danced up the stairs.
The skeleton's like do. I mean, there's so many things like that you could play that in a funny way today.
Yeah.
But like the ending of it. So the part with the skeleton is where they would fly a skeleton around in the theater.
Which I bet that was so much fun.
Yeah.
Because being back in the era, if everyone's in on it and excited for the experience.
So much popcorn got thrown around that happened. I just love the scenes of horrified people throwing popcorn.
Well, I mean, it's like that's my goal. When you think of watching movies, so like Scream 2, when they had the big premiere for the Stab movie, and everybody's like wearing the costumes. Like, I've never been to a movie experience like that.
I don't want to. I don't want to go to a movie.
Well, I'm just saying, but like,
I would like to do it for a horror film like that. But but I mean, you go to Marvel films and people are like, I went to see Civil War, and people were dressed up there as Spider-Man with like the Captain America shield. Like, people are dressed up in there and going pretty wild,
The experiences today where you get stuff like that are the specialty midnight screenings.
Yes, yeah.
Because like a couple years ago they had one at the theater by us.
You don't know. We go to our theaters in our town. I mean, you don't know. Like, I've heard some horror stories, or stories about why some theatrical experiences are just nuts.
You have like
people getting stabbed in them and stuff and shot.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's people. Well, there was one in Kentucky not too long ago where somebody that we went to high school with, it was in the news because this group of people were at a movie theater and then started yelling at some guy and like attacked him and stabbed him.
Was it the girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, she apparently stomped her head or something. The first day I was on training to be a news photographer, we were trying to track her family down.
Yeah.
I didn't realize till we had already we were about to knock on her door that it was somebody I went to high school with, and I knew her, and I thought, I was like, look, can I back out of this one? Even though it's like my first time, because like somebody else there was shooting, my boss was. And so I was like, oh my God, my first day, I'm gonna have to like try to get an interview from her mom or grandma about
it. Well, and too, so like, but all that stuff, so like, you have like the theatrical experiences, but just like this was probably very fun. Like, if they were doing one locally ever, a screening of this with the skeleton, I would probably go to that.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Oh yeah, especially if you go in, if it's a theater or whatever that has drinks, you can go in and have a few drinks beforehand. And this is a short movie where you're not going to have to take a lot of bathroom breaks. It Chapter 2 is almost 3 hours.
This will be a good double feature film.
Yeah, because Derek, you watched Last Man on Earth. I think it's about the same amount.
Yeah, it's both pretty short.
So we've watched plenty of movies to this podcast where an individual movie took longer
than both
of them. Yeah, so it's just a fun movie. Then the ending, the one guy who opens the movie ends it, and he's like, "There's me another ghost, and they're coming for me, and then you."
Yes,
yeah. Oh, I wonder if people in the theater are losing their mind.
I'm sure they were. I mean, you hear
it's coming for me.
You hear recordings of like people watching like say John Carpenter's Halloween and just losing their minds, or like Psycho and stuff. Like,
there's like so much.
It was a different era. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I love how like somebody die at The Exorcist because of terror. I think it's probably just hard.
I mean, there's been a few movies,
but I do miss that era because like I don't like they gave people out puke bags when they went to movies and
like
different stuff. And like
it Raw, when they showed it at different film festivals, they had puke bags,
and that's how we got to Saw because people's their tolerance levels went up.
Well, now they disemboweled him, made him eat it, and then made him poop it out, and he ate it again. And
so it's funny is even though the first Saw was pretty tame when you rewatch it, because it's a lower budgeted movie. Yeah. Some of the later ones, somebody's head gets smashed into 2 big blocks of ice and all this stuff, and people. But there was a lot of
and I'm talking about just in general.
There's a lot of
movies.
And then there's all the movies that were like a little bit lower budgeted movies that then thought they had to go further than Saw to get people interested. Uh-huh. So you have like where the escalation of it used to be somebody just falls in a puddle of water and then you make it look like they dissolve and everyone's losing their mind, and a fake skeleton in today's world, that doesn't do anything.
I mean, you had even schlockier films back then that, what was it, Buckets of Blood? You know what I mean? Like you had plenty of films that
people
went
thought
further.
that the shower scene in Psycho was horrific.
Yes,
and
the toilet flush,
and it never even really shows the knife contact skin and blood come out. It just shows like the knife coming down and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things where it's just a movie of a different era, and if you go into it looking to have fun, you'll have fun.
Yeah.
If you show this to somebody who only wants to be scared and they only like stuff that has like the modern sensibility of, the build up, release of tension, loud noise, jump scare. Like this doesn't have that.
No.
That formula has been more recent, but the other thing I like is it doesn't have a lot of non sequitur jump scares where it's a cat or whatever.
Well, that's my least favorite thing in just I don't even want to say modern because that really started in the 60s and 70s, but like Amityville Horror is the original is like the worst movie about that because like
Fake jump scares.
Yeah, because like most of
I don't think that movie's that good. I don't like that movie that much.
But like even then, like that, you go back and because we did it for the podcast
like one of the
several
early
years
first
ago,
10 episodes.
and I remember like it's one of those movies I'd probably seen. But I watched all the way through and I was like, this is kind of not good.
When you watch it on TV, I think, and it's cut up, and you only see some of the scary parts, and you think about how it applies to your, to your life. If you experience that, it's scary. But if you watch the movie in totality, it's like this is kind of a dry movie.
Yeah.
It's got James Brolin's dad or Josh Brolin's dad, James Brolin, isn't it?
Yep.
I think.
Margot Kidder. So it's got some good actors in it. And it's an interesting premise, and it has the allure based on a true story. But when you actually watch it, it's like there's not a lot happening here.
Yeah, and I like that this movie isn't like that.
No, but I like it because it's like campy, it's fun, it's Vincent Price playing a Vincent Price character. There's literally zero character development. Everybody shows up and leaves about the same as they got there, aside from Nora, who just got a little bit more scared by the end.
Isn't it kind of fun, though, to go watch movies where there's not character development? Because like all these movies, even in horror, there's always some type of character development.
It works for this one because the whole point of it is like, a haunted house. Jump scare.
And you're not supposed to be getting better as a person or, it's just like...
resolving childhood issues.
Yeah, it's just like, I wanted to kill these two people, so I brought in all these other people to do it, and
you get to see some fun stuff and a rope come around somebody.
Like I said, so I had fun watching this. I definitely would like to go if they have like one of those screenings.
Yeah.
Are you scared of ropes now?
Oh yeah, they will go around your ankles.
No more rope in this house.
And then it will undo around your ankles and it'll go away. I really don't want to get slight rope burn or rope fibers on my leg hairs. But yeah, so since it's this is coming out in so we're recording 2 episodes back to back. This will be the second episode that gets released. But in October,
don't break the illusion.
Are there other movies from this era that you would think people should check out?
There's a million.
Yeah,
and that's why I want to watch some more for the podcast.
Any specific ones?
13 Ghosts. Like
13
I will
Ghosts.
throw that out because and even the remake, both of them, watch them.
Well, like those 90s remakes, so like House on Haunted Hill and 13 Ghosts, both have fun in certain ways.
Vincent Price, House of Wax, and the remake of House of Wax is good. So, there's a lot of those stuff that like, I would recommend those two, House of Wax and 13 Ghosts.
Now I'm drawing a blank on the film that people say that Drag Me to Hell is remade from.
But then
was it Demon?
But then the Ghost of Mr. Chicken, the Don Knotts movie, that's worth checking out too. It's just another kind of fun, scary movie.
I like Cat People. That movie's pretty good. I'm trying to think the remake of. Here we go. Let me see here. Is it Curse of the Demon? Yeah, that's like mid-50s. But that is very much, again, like Drag Me to Hell pulls a lot from that. And like I said, Drag Me to Hell feels like a movie from this era, that style.
Other stuff that if it was even possible to get like a good, high-quality, full copy, we would do an episode of it. It's just not Freaks, Todd Browning's movie Freaks.
That's on AMC. Or TMC right now.
But I thought that they cut a lot of it out, and it's like a trimmed down version. So like the original full version of the movie, at this point, the elements aren't even there to have.
Maybe, but we can at least watch that. Yeah, right now that is on TMC. So TMC does their whole thing in October.
Because I have YouTube TV, so you go through and I've recorded a bunch of stuff. And me and Sean are probably going to bring this up because at one point we're going to power through all the Resident Evil movies. And probably do like a little mini podcast.
Because you've already pretty much done.
Yeah, I've watched 1, 2, and 3, 5, and I gotta watch 4 and 6. So I'm watching.
I'll probably put the other ones on while I work that I've seen before, and then the ones I haven't seen, which is just 4 and 5, I will sit there and watch those.
Yeah, like we should do Freaks at some point if there's like a decent copy available.
I mean, but I think it's only up for a short amount of time. So let's look. We'll look today, and I'll let you guys know. But yeah, if you got to log in for any sort of cable thing, you can do that. TMC has Freaks and one other horror film right now. And then October hits, and I think they cycle out pretty fast, though.
I got a bunch of stuff that I was put on the library through TMC. I have to go home and look, but like I think they had Piranha Double D on there, and they had a bunch of like schlocky 70s like exploitation horror stuff that and Night of the Comet they had on there.
Yeah, Night of the Comet.
There's a bunch of different stuff I've recorded I need to watch.
Yeah, okay, so I have it right here. Let's see here. Films.
Oh, you can rent it on Amazon Prime, but like I said, I've heard that there was stuff cut out from it.
Maybe, but look, I guess they just added some more today. They even got Bride of Frankenstein on here. So when I checked last night, I think it was Hunchback of Notre Dame and Freaks were the only two. So they got Bride of Frankenstein, they got The Mummy from 1959, Belladonna of Sadness, and It Came from Outer Space. So they're going to start adding a lot more, but I don't know how long they stay up because I feel like they're expires October 1st.
Yeah.
So Freaks.
See, I just record it on my library and just
Yeah. They go really fast. So when they pop up, it's good to watch them as soon as they do. That's how I watched a lot of the Universal stuff when I watched them all back.
What I like about the YouTube app is you can, like on something like that, you can record it. Just go ahead and record to your library, even if it's already played. So
I have I have like the AT&T DirecTV now. But yeah, Bride of Frankenstein, it just went up. I guess today expires October 7th.
Yeah.
But it's awesome to have this app too. You know what I mean? If you watch on demand, if you don't record it.
Yeah, but I mean, so there's a bunch of stuff like from that era that's fun to watch. And the thing that's nice is a lot of those movies are shorter, so they're not taking up a ton of your time. And of course, like the Universal monsters, we have to go through all those. But we've reviewed Psycho, and I think that's kind of a little bit above a lot of those. So it's a later film, it's 1960. I mean, just a year after House on Haunted Hill. But I think it's elevated. It stands the test of time better.
I said 10 years because I was thinking of it. Night of the Living Dead is 10 years after this movie.
But then, too, you think about, like, Freaks was in the 30s.
Yes.
So you have all these things. But, so there's a lot of old movies you can check out if you want to watch something that's horror, but it's not aimed at a modern... If it's not aimed at the gore, the trying to be scary... For the modern sensibility, and at this point, they're just fun.
I mean, my favorite one is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. You know what I mean? Like, that is like... Because... And that film, I think, one, it's well written. It's not long, too. And it's... The scares are paced so much better, too. Because it is... You've got three Universal monsters in that one. You know what I mean? Like... So there's gags for them all, and it's just, I think that film is awesome as far as the way it brings, like people are pointing out, like that was the first, like that was a huge deal. That was like the first like Avengers type film where it's like for the first time they have all the, like those major Universal monsters all together. And I just think that turned out very well. But yeah, I mean, there's tons out there. I want to dig into more. Like I haven't seen Freaks before. I've got a bunch on my list.
There's so much stuff out there too. And I know like, I would like to visit Freaks, and I'm going there and probably record a bunch of stuff. But I just really kind of like that Vincent Price era because it's something like I haven't not watched a bunch of his stuff. I'm aware of him. But you go back and watch, and it's like we don't have anybody like that anymore. No. Where you have a guy that's just like the guy in horror, just a voice of horror. Because like, he's mainly Vincent Price's voice too. How much stuff?
Yeah, his voice. But Peter Cushing was also a big one. Like
which is weird.
My big blind spot is the Hammer horror film.
Yeah, we need to go through.
I would like to do a series. Like we've been talking about. Like I want to do some series. Like we talked about in Resident Evil, and that just lined up because he just started watching a bunch. I'm like, well, let's just do something on it.
Because I was like, I've seen 1 and 2. I was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and we have a book of music exchange. I bought a couple of them for pretty cheap. I was like, I'm gonna power through them.
Yeah.
And then there happened to be one on Sci-Fi and one other else somewhere. So I can go power through all these movies and watch them and just kind of give my opinion on it 10 years after the series, where it's been on. It started in 2001, so.
Yeah, and like I said, the Universal ones can be one, and then if we can do some Hammer horror ones, that would be good. And then maybe pick a director and like knock out all of his. But yeah, I definitely, let's start trying to record some stuff on Turner movie classics.
So given...
Classic movies.
Attempting to give this movie a score on a 10, what would you give it?
I mean, it's hard to say, because
if you rate it from a modern sensibility, I mean, if you rate it, so I'm saying if you take out the element of nostalgia and grading it on a curve based on when it was released, all that stuff, for a modern horror audience that's looking to be scared, it's like a 2.
Oh yeah.
But if you're a film fan who appreciates that era, then it's more like 8, 9.
That's what I was thinking, like an 8 at least.
It's higher tier, from that era. But in terms of stuff that's fun to watch now.
Just me give it a grade or a number, and I'm going to be fair here. I mean, to me, it's like a 6 out of 10. Because I'm not going to give it more because, I like it. I really enjoy it, but my wife fell asleep watching it, so it's like,
Oh, yeah.
So
I value it a lot just because of Vincent Price alone.
I value it a lot, but I'm trying to think, if I'm being honest and fair, like, if I was just, because we have a very obviously interest in this, so it's easier for me to say engrossed in that film, but just the average person that's just not maybe familiar with Vincent Price and all that stuff, I don't know how much is there.
A lot of modern audiences are probably more fun with the remake because it has more horror elements and ghosts and spirits and stuff. This one really, I mean, at the end of the day, didn't show you anything truly supernatural.
No.
Yeah.
It was just fake heads that were trying to scare a woman to be hysterical. The housekeeper that just floats around.
Which I like that idea a lot.
And then a skeleton that's being controlled by somebody. And then the promise of ghost.
Yeah.
But yes, I think, like in terms of...
People would be really mad today, too, if they're like, oh, there was no ghost in that movie.
Yeah.
They'd be like, that's bullcrap. I want it. You know what I mean? Like,
especially...
if The Conjuring turned out to be them orchestrating it, people would lose.
Yeah.
That movie would not have been successful.
But, but you have like The Haunting of Hill House, which has a lot of ghosts in it.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things where you learn, like, no spoilers, but if you go back and watch, you see a bunch of ghosts. Whereas I think once modern audiences have something like that, to go back and watch something that doesn't have anything, it would be hard for me to get through.
But for me, that is if you want ghosts. For me, I'm like, if it's a good ghost movie, it's a good ghost movie, but I don't care either way. So for me, I'm like, I like it whenever sometimes things are explained. You know what I mean? Like, not explained, but I'm also okay when it is not ghost, because I'm not there because my head is wrapped up in thinking ghosts are real, and that's why I'm there, because I'm scared of the ghost. I'm there just because I want to see what experience the filmmaker made, and did they pull it off, Yeah.
Have you given a score for you?
Yeah. So like if you rate it on like a curve, I get like an 8.
All right. Well, I guess my question is, if you could pick one person to be Vincent Price in the movie in a remake, like who is somebody that comes to mind?
It depends on who was directing the film and the tone of it, you know? I'm trying to think.
I would say somebody I think would be interesting, given his interest in the paranormal and ghost movies in general. I think Dan Aykroyd could maybe be interesting in that, because he's older now.
Well, maybe Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters.
I'm gonna say him now, because like if you listen to a bunch of stuff, he's very interested in the paranormal, and I think it'd be kind of interesting.
Take up that mantle.
Yeah, to get in that. I just think that could be interesting.
Yeah.
It depends on the type of film you go for, but I would be interested in seeing.
I mean,
that.
think about him in.
I'm trying to go like
Nothing But Trouble. Like, he could go wild with it.
Yeah, I think that could be fun. I don't know how good he is anymore, but I do think.
So what's funny is in different eras. So you could have even Bill Murray could have done it at some point.
I think Bill Murray could start.
You could have a certain era Chevy Chase do it.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that would have been very good.
You could have and then recently, like you said, Jeff Goldblum would be a very interesting.
Yeah, he'd be
choice.
very interesting.
And there's a lot of people that could be fun.
I think Aubrey Plaza could be really fun in that role. You give her because you've seen her in Legion, and just like the way she can go off the rails. I think that in itself could be really fun to see. Because you try to think of people that like left field. What's something different? Don't give me the same person you give me in everything. I don't want some super handsome white dude being in that role, because I feel like that's what they would do now. It's like, no, don't give me that.
I mean, Harrison Ford playing it really stiff.
I mean, that would be kind of interesting.
He's like, get off my wife, punch.
Or, what's his name? Pill. Not Jordan Pill, Key. What's the...
Keegan-Michael Key.
Yeah, he could be interesting in that role, like... Because you look at
but really fidgety, it's like, what are you doing over here?
I just think, given certain, like his A.A. Ron character, like, you give me somebody like that would be fun, and it's like, give me something a little bit different here, or,
Yeah, I don't know. First of all, I want to see somebody make this type
Eddie
of film.
Murphy.
You know what I mean?
Eddie Murphy would be great, because he's kind of
made
in
a Haunted Mansion movie.
Yeah, and he's kind of doing a resurgence now, so he's finally coming back in mainstream. I think that could be really fun. There's a lot of fun to be had in this movie, where you could get maybe somebody that's a little off kilter for that role, that just kind of sets it like. Because you just have some
Walton Goggins.
Yeah, like that would be interesting, especially because you give him more of like you could set more.
Especially vice principals, you'd always be suspicious of him. He has that suspicious thing where it's like, dude, you're playing a role. You know what I mean? Like he's got stuff in his back pocket.
He's got like those really big teeth, and he smiles a lot.
And instead of like a more English accent, it could be a Southern accent.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
this
Southern like. From like a family of like plantation owners or something, where you're like, this guy is something's wrong with him.
Yeah, you don't trust. And I think like you start thinking stuff like that. It's like there's a lot they could do with this movie and make it really fun and scary, but still have fun with the audience, which is why I think.
And it would be great to have pack the cast like that. You know what I mean? Just having like they try to do in the remake. You know,
or like with like the new movie like Knives Out, the Rian Johnson film, you have kind of a stacked cast.
Yeah.
If you do something similar to that today.
Well, even like Jamie Lee Curtis could be in the Vincent Price. I mean, there's a lot of different people.
You could get like a horror icon.
But the problem we stated though is if you make the movie more tongue in cheek, you have to really sell it hard on the comedy, and it has to be really broad comedy for it to work, because horror comedy is unfortunately this one genre where fans love it, but it's like a small niche of fans.
I still think you could have something like this where you have comedy, but still have true horror.
If you somehow go and sell it as a haunted house film and not as a horror film, you know what I mean? Like this straight horror film, I think you might be able to find some audience members. Now, it may be the older crowd, even some of them may be older than us, but
you could even maybe try to get Robert Englund in that role.
Yeah.
Somebody like that, because that would really be a big wink, because it's Freddy Krueger, So obviously, there's lots that they could do there that could be really fun. Or
the one I thought of earlier was too obvious. This was when you were talking about Jeff Goldblum, was like Bruce Campbell. Yeah. That was the one I was thinking about previously.
But even then, though, you're talking about Walter, he plays such a good, like, you're lying to me.
Yes,
like, you're so scheming and like, you're slithery.
Like, you're very good at working people,
And if, what's the guy that passed away, he was in Twister, Aliens.
Oh, yes.
What's his name?
Bill...
Frailty.
No, he was
Paxton.
in... Bill Paxton. Like, he would have been great. Or, go really weird and give me Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Or, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. But there's like a lot...
Arnold Schwarzenegger's pretending to be English. And you're like, this guy doesn't have English. And he just speaks with a normal voice.
Like, you like to come into my house. That could be fun. And it's something that's always off in the beginning.
Or just have Bill Hader doing it.
Yes.
Have him doing an impression.
Gosh.
Have Bill Hader do it. He's doing an impression and it slips up every here and there, and you see like his real personality.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. A comedian that not necessarily is playing a broad, like scary movie.
Having him wearing like a nice suit with an ascot and just being really dapper. But
that could be great.
But so
and also too, we didn't mention Sid Haig passed away too.
We'll probably mention on the other one.
That's right. Yes.
But so very sad. Because he wasn't at Days of the Dead, the recent one, because I think wasn't that after he had fallen, or was that before?
I think he was in bad health at the time.
He had been in bad health, and I know he had done conventions right up until he wasn't able to completely, so, it's a very sad moment, because everything I've ever seen, like I've encountered him before, he's always super nice and super sweet, and was somebody that didn't charge a lot of money for photos and autographs, and kind of kept the mentality, and like went to things just to be there for fans, not so much that it was financially beneficial to him. So, very sad.
Yeah, a lot of things I've heard, it seems like he was there for fan interaction. Because like some people at the convention we would keep nameless just were there and looked miserable.
We heard somebody, not saying which one or where, but we heard somebody complaining, I don't want to go in there and take pictures.
Yes.
It was Carmen Electra.
Recorded our podcast. While we recorded the podcast, she was walking up.
The one at Days of the Dead.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't want to go in there. Like, they're wrangling her in there to do it. And it's like, okay. That's not going very well.
That's just what we saw for just a moment.
And I heard it. So,
I didn't hear it. Somebody said it after the podcast, or was it during the podcast?
I think it happened during the podcast.
But you all told us after,
Yeah, because the camera wasn't facing that.
Yeah, because I was at the end of the table.
I was thinking we should have faced it the other way just to have.
Oh, we could have. If we would have got it,
people passing us. Yeah.
We would have probably gotten sued by now.
No, we wouldn't have got sued.
No.
It's a hallway.
No. I'm saying the point is, we had another video that we recorded at a convention where we got forced to take it down because somebody appeared in it, and then I think
we got requested. They fake forced us.
Well, they requested, but then before we had a chance to respond, went ahead and gave us a strike. Yeah. But that's all cleared off the account now. But so I think that wraps up our discussion on the House on Haunted Hill. Do us a huge favor, leave a review wherever you're listening to the podcast. It helps other people find it. You can find everything we're doing at HBTVS.com. We now have that shortened URL. We have a merch store. You can get shirts, and there's different types of shirts and colors. If you go in there, any of the shirts, if you click on it, you can see all the color options. That's something Chad set up, which is very nice. So you can go check that out. You can find also we're doing also on social media, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Like I said, we shot a short film recently, so we're going to have behind the scenes pictures from that up sometime soon, and the short itself coming out sometime in October. So all that stuff you can find at hbtvs.com as well. And if you want to find us specifically on the internet, you can find me on Instagram at the William Caps.
You can find me at Capster.
I'm at Splevin Sean on Twitter.
And that'll wrap up this episode of the House of Azor podcast. Thanks for listening.